Okay, guys, so we are back from the Zoom break. So we were saying now that we are trying to find QX, where X is the midpoint of QS. So first we need to identify the midpoint of QS. So that would be the point where X is. Now, we know that the midpoint of QS would be half of QS. But we know that in terms of A and B, we see that QS would be equivalent to the vector QP plus or together with the vector PS. But based on QP, we know that QP is equal to, it is going opposite to A, so it is minus A. And we know that PS is going the same direction as B, so it is plus B. Now, we know that QX would be equal to half. I'm sorry about that, guys. So just to quickly write that again. So QS equal to QP plus PS, which is just equal to minus A plus B. And we want to find QX, which is equal to half QS. But we know that QS, we know, and if you want to write this part here, you could write it also as B minus A. So B minus A. So half of QS then would be QX would be half of QS. It would be just half of B minus A. Is that clear, guys? So that's how you would write that. Is that clear, guys? All right, so the other one now, you would have to find now from P to X. Now to find P to X, in order to go from P to X, which other direction could you go to go from P to X? You could go from where? If you're to go from P to X, so P to X, you can go from P to Q, and then from Q to X. So you can go PQ, and then you go QX. So we see that PX is equal to PQ plus QX. Now we know if we go PQ, we know that PQ is equal to what? PQ is equal to A. And we already know what QX is because we wrote QX to be half B minus A. So this will be plus QX, which is plus half bracket B minus A. Are you following, guys? Miss Green, are you following? Miss Cabrera?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Dorothy already put up her hand, so I'm assuming that she's following. All right, so here we have down here, we have now find RY and XY. Now RY, they tell you that Y is the point on the line such that SY and YR are in the ratio of 2 to 1. So it means that Y going to be somewhere here, but it is 2 to 1. That means SY would be the bigger portion, which is 2. So if you put Y right here, this part would be 2 out of, so this would be 2/3 of S, right? So that's the ratio. So the ratio is that this side is 2 and this side is 1. So RS now, RY is coming this way. So RY coming this way. So which other way could we go to get to RY? So we could go this direction. We can go from R to Q. We can go from R to Q. And we can then now go from Q to Y. But how would that help us in terms of A and B? All right. So we want to go from R to Y. And we are saying that we can go from R to Q. All right. You see, we can go this way too now. We can go from R to Q, then R to S, sorry, then Q to S, and then S to Y. So RY is equal to going from R to Q plus Q to S plus S to Y. All right. If we go from R to Q, that would be going opposite to the remember Q to R is the same as B. Q to R is the same as P to S, which is the same as B. But if we're going from R to Q, then this now going to become minus B. Now Q to S, we would have calculated Q to S to be equal to B minus A. So this is Q to S equal to B minus A. So we would know QS already. And from S to R would be two-thirds of A. I remember S to R is the same as P to Q, which is the same as A, but from S to Y is 2/3 of A. And so what we would have then, we would have for RQ would be minus B. And then QS would be B minus A. This is B minus A. So that would be plus B minus A plus 2/3 A. Now remember that this minus B will cancel with this B. So you would have left here minus A plus 2/3 A would give you what? That would give you a negative 1/3 of A. And that would be the answer. Guys, you follow? Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so that is pretty much the approach to this question. All right, let me clear this and just give you pretty much. So if we look at the solution, so these, then that would be the solution for the first one. This is the solution for the second one. All right. And clearly you should be able to see how to get that. So P to R is equal to P to Q and then Q to R. So that's for the first one. And then QS is equal to QP. So Q to P and then P to S. That's minus A. So everybody see that? Everybody see that? And then now this one, X, would be half of QS, which would be half minus A plus B. And then PX would be, when you expand the bracket. So you can leave it without expanding the bracket, but if you wish, you can do this. All right, so PX now would be half from P to X. This is from here to here. So you would have A plus half A plus half B. So which is the same as this. You could just add the, instead of removing the brackets, you could just keep it like this and just add A to that. So A plus half brackets minus A plus B. And that would be good. So this would be the same thing as that, right? No problem. All right. All right, now for down here, when we talk about the ratio now. That's 2/3 and that's 1/3. So we could say that Ry would be equal to 1/3 Rs. So you could write it this way too. Ry is equal to 1/3 of Rs. And that would be minus 1/3 A. So that is, so when you get the 1/3 A, you would go from R to Q, then Q to S, and then to that. That's how we did get the 1/3 A, the negative 1/3 A. And this one now, QY, from Q to Y, you would draw a line. You would draw a line from Q to Y. And then now, to go from Q to Y, which other direction you could go? You can go from Q to S, and then S to Y. So or you can go from Q to R, and then R to Y. So whichever way you want to go. So if you go from Q to R and then R to Y, this is what you would get. Because Q to R would be B, and R to Y, we know that that's negative 1/3 A. So it would be B minus 1/3 A. XY. So if you're going from X to Y, you would have to draw a line from X to Y. And so this would be the line going from X to Y. So you would say, now, which other direction you can go to go from X to Y? You can go from X to S, and then from S to Y, right? We know that from X to S is the same as from Q to X. Q to X would be, Q to X would be half of QS, which is half minus A plus B. So we could have the result from Q to X plus Q to Y, right? So X to Y will be the same as going from Q to X, because Q to X and X to S is the same as Q to X. But these are the same. Q to X and X to S, they are the same. Because remember, Q to X here is half of Q to S. All right, so we would have this here, half A minus B, which is this, plus you're going from Q to Y. So we say that going from X to Y, you go from X to S and then S to Y. But we know that Q to Y here, Q to Y here, Q to Y would be this. X to Y would be going this way. This is the same as X to S, which is the same as this. So we would get this. Is that the correct one though? Q to X, Q to X This is Q to X. This is Q to X. Apparently what they did was to multiply out the bracket by a negative, so this changed, it changed the signs of these, all right? And then now you would have Q to Y. Oh, I see what they're doing. They're doing it the other way around. All right, let me just undo some of these lines. So what they did, they said from Q to Y, you would go from X to Q, which is this way. So if you go X to Q, and then go from Q to Y. But we would have calculated Q to Y to be this. Now, if we are going X to Q, remember Q to X, where is Q to X? Q to X would be this, or this. This is Q to X. But if we're going X to Q, that means we would have to find the negative of this. And when you multiply this by negative, this becomes positive and this becomes negative. So we would get this instead. So we would get X to Q, which is this, and then Q to Y, which would be this. And then we add them together. All right, guys. So that's how they get that. So they follow this pathway. X to Y is the same as X to Q and then Q to Y. But one thing you should know, guys, if you decided to go this way, X to Y, X to S, and then S to Y, you should get the same result. So it's just a matter of how you manipulate the calculation. So it's the same thing that you would get in terms of results. Any question, guys? Do you have a sense of how to do these? All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you, there are some more questions on this. Like, for instance, these are some other questions here. So we have question 2, question 3. We have quite a number of them. All right, so what I want you to do, try these 2 for Sunday class. So you're going to try these 2 on your own. Or if you can do more than these 2, you do more than these 2, guys. But I'm going to just end this session right here. So we'll continue with this class on Sunday, 3 to 5. All right, guys.